Hello furniture people, how are you doing today? Welcome to another episode of Grit to Gold. So this is a writing table that I found at the Restore. I love the Restore. It's like an infinite rummage sale. And you can see here it's all covered with blue paint and dirt. And originally it was stained. And I'm going to guess this thing is probably 100, 125, maybe even 130 years old. I did my customary lead-based paint test and it came up clean. And what I can tell you is Eddie was intrigued. He's pretty excited about this whole thing. So I picked it up, brought it home, started disassembly so that I could stain it and make something gold out of it, if you will. No maker's mark or anything. I have no idea where it came from, where it was manufactured or anything else. As you can see, it's got some good construction there. Structurally, it's all in very good shape. Wasn't loose or wobbly or anything. It's been treated well. No water damage or anything like that. So I got down to business. I pulled it apart, pulled the bottom off, the little step part that you'd rest your feet on. You can see it in the upper frame of the video right there as I sand the legs at super high speed. The paint and the varnish that was underneath the paint, and also there was a coat of varnish over the paint, came off very easily. It didn't really take a whole lot. So I zipped through it here and got it down to the bare wood, and I think it's probably oak. Not really sure. It's hard to tell sometimes on these older pieces. I'm not very good at identifying them. I should take a class on that. In any case, all four of them came down nicely. You can see I've got one mostly finished there too, and I'll get to it tackling the other two soon. Calling this part the footboard because it was on the bottom, and if you sit at this table, you very naturally would rest your feet on this. I don't know if that's really what it's for or what it was called, but that's what I'm calling it. This also cleaned up nice and easily, a lot easier even than the legs because it's flat, not round. But it worked well. The blue paint, the old varnish, everything came off. It's really not scuffed up or anything, so it was easy to clean up. And in that last little flash there, you can see how nicely the footrest cleaned up on this. And I hope you enjoyed that little bit of music there too. It reminds me of Snoopy from when I was a kid. I enjoyed it. So I went to the frame of the table. The area there is on the top is where the drawer goes. And this, I don't show a ton of it here. Frankly, it was tedious sanding in it. I didn't want to tear the whole thing apart. Part of it is nailed together. I don't want to damage the older wood, things like that. So I showed you a little bit of it. Here, this part is one of the spindles that holds up the footrest on the piece. And you can see the first one there that a few seconds ago, how nice that looked. And now this one is taking the stain also very nicely. And eventually I get to the legs here too, and they take the stain beautifully too. That old wood, the pores of the wood just soak it up, and the end result is just beautiful, gorgeous. And the the legs themselves, you can see the brown bands there. There's a little bit of brown paint in there, a little bit of the old stain. I cleaned it up enough, and then as I'm using the dark walnut stain here, you'll see that it blends very nicely. That way I'm not, when I'm sanding and stripping and stuff, I'm not chipping up the older bits of wood. And the end result, you actually can't tell that I did it that way. Again, a dark stain like this can be very, very forgiving. So, for what that's worth. My plan on this originally, as I said at the beginning of the video, I got it from the Restore, and I think I probably paid $20, $25 for it. And what I do a lot of the time, because there's only so much floor space in anybody's house, is I'll give pieces back to the Restore, and if they get to sell them twice that way. It raises a little more extra money for Habitat for Humanity. It's a good cause. Building places for people to live, fixing them up. This particular one, though, I fell in love with it, and particularly this top. And as I'm staining it, so look at the grain, especially in the front here, in the lower right area, wider grain, and then you move to the boards, the other boards back there. And this whole tabletop, it has a texture. When I was all finished with it, the wood has a texture that when you run your hands over it, the tactile feel of it is wonderful. It just sticks out. And it's not like, something that, has so much of a coating on it that you can't feel anything, that it's perfectly flat, and, and certainly not like a lot of modern surfaces that are done that way. And I can't help myself when I walk past it but to run my fingers over it. So I decided to keep this one. Of course, coated, my traditional personal favorite, a water-based polyurethane. And I very often, especially on the wear part of a surface, I'll do 6 coats of poly, and eventually you get to a finish that, again, it's beautiful, it's durable, and just looks wonderful. I brush it on, and as you work with poly like this, polyurethane, it blends together. You don't see brush strokes or anything like that. You have to be careful around the nooks and crannies, places where it might build up. If it dries, then it leaves sort of a white residue. It's the poly itself, of course, and you can sand that down, and then re-poly over the sand mark if you have to. But it's just easier to be careful in the first place. The easiest approach on this one, I put the table back together, obviously, put it up on a table where I can work on it, laid some towels down so I'm not damaging that top surface that I just polyurethaned. And of course that polyurethane on the top is dry at this point. And then go over the legs and the frame and everywhere else on it and get it all coated and make it look nice. So this pole, when I started on this, I was originally going to replace the pole. And I changed my mind. And there were 2 reasons. If you look by my thumb there, you can see 2 little metal parts that come up, and you can see the little receptacles that they go into in the drawer. So, 125, 130, 135 years ago, however old this thing is, the old craftsmen came up a way to keep the poles from spinning loose. They had two little metal protrusions that stick into the wood, and to spin that out, you actually have to unscrew it. You're not going to, with a screwdriver from the inside again, you're not going to just spin the pole and take it off. And I decided to paint it yellow, the pole itself, and you can see I'm messing around with the inside of the drawer here, because I thought it looked like a sunflower, and I like it. It's a bright little pop on there, so it works well. And I was originally going to leave the interior of this drawer yellow, and then I had an idea. Yep, I don't like that. There we go. We've all seen I'll call them planetary painters, at a state fair or a carnival, and they'll paint these up, and I like them. I think they're cool. And the inside of that drawer was nothing remarkable, and so I decided to make it a little bit remarkable. So you start with a little bit of a background, and then paint what will be your planet a little bit too big. Put down something round, in this case, a can of stain. There's my planet. There's a few splotches of some different colors and marks on it. Makes it look a little bit like something that the Hubble telescope took a picture of. And I just like it. Eddie approves of this one. That's his favorite part right there. So I love this. I was going to sell it. I'm going to keep it. Actually, I was going to give it to the restore. Then I was going to sell it, but I'm going to keep it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, like and subscribe. It lets me keep bringing up content like this to you. And I'm having fun with this. Please stay safe and be healthy, everyone.